Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 14 of season 3 of Arrow called The Return. And this is, I would have to say, a pretty good episode as a whole. In terms of the flashbacks, always a controversial aspect of the show since the very beginning. I gotta say, this is probably like the greatest flashback ever. I mean, it really dominated the episode, but just this look into all the little things going on around the time or very close to the time of season 1 that we never got to see is really cool. I mean, I had no idea Tommy was going to be this episode, so when I see him, I'm like, oh my god, Tommy! So I'm just like freaking the hell out. It was just so damn good. I mean, it really does show you just how far these characters have come. Like, for example, let's start with Thea in the flashback. Well, after the first Vertigo episode, Thea having any kind of problems with drugs just sort of faded away on its own. Here we see that problem in full swing, and it's not a pretty thing to look at. The relationship between Quentin and Laurel is massively, massively ugly. I mean, Quentin is a functional alcoholic, and functional is in quotes there. And just that when he lays into Laurel and just basically all but calls her a piece of shit. I mean, he literally throws the word gold digger right in her face. It's just like, wow. And sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. It was also kind of cool that we got to see a little bit of Felicity before, she quote unquote met Oliver. The only thing that really could have made that scene better is if it had been Moira. That's actually kind of who I thought it was going to be, but they made do with what they had to work with. And honestly, Moira's been gone for a while, and while it would have been a punch in the gut for Oliver to be able to see his mom, contrasting, the Felicity of the past with how Oliver's relationship is with her now, that has the greater emotional impact. So I'm okay with what they did. We also got to see Diggle's brother for the first time, which was kind of cool. It helped humanize him a little bit. I kind of hadn't realized that they were in business of being bodyguards together. I guess I kind of had the impression from the first episode that Diggle was sort of new at all of this. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not remembering some of the things that were said in season 1 very well. And let me see. Of course, we also got to see Tommy again, as I said, and we got to see what was most certainly the start of Tommy and Laurel's more than friends relationship. We get to see Tommy sort of stepping in there, trying to be the good older brother to Thea. And you look at that and you have to imagine that this is probably kind of where Oliver's death probably forced Tommy to really have a hard look at his life and just sort of realize, like, hey, what have I been doing with my life? I've been chasing around questionable women and boozing it up and almost certainly taking drugs as well. And now my friend is gone. Now my other friend's sister is gone. This guy who's been kind of like an uncle to me my whole life, he's gone too. Maybe it's time I grow the hell up. And Thea throwing it in his face. You're not my brother. I just looked at it and like, you know what? I wish Tommy had said to her, like, you know what? You're right. I'm not. But Oliver wasn't a perfect guy. But if he was here, this is what he would say to you because he did care about you. I mean, this episode just really serves to remind us that out of everybody in the entire first season of the show, the most moral person was Tommy. And I definitely liked Maceo kind of in the flashback, sort of pointing out to Oliver, like, dude, that hoodie is going to do a crap job of hiding your face, which of course it does, and even kind of pushes it a little further. It's like people could tell you who you were even if you were wearing grease paint. And then of course the drug dealer recognizes Oliver, and then it's like neck snap, which was a favorite move of Oliver's in season 1. And anybody else notice that this drug dealer guy looked more than a little bit like Chase? I don't know. I guess scuzzy blonde dudes with really stupid choices in facial hair, maybe they all just look alike to me. I also really like that scene where Quentin starts laying into Tommy, reminding us very much how I think it might have even been in the first episode how Quentin really, really hated Tommy. I mean, he just sort of transferred all that resentment he had towards Oliver onto Tommy. But anyway, so moving back to what was going on in the present. Okay, one thing that did bug me this episode is when they go to get the gun from Robert's grave, and it apparently works just fine after having been buried in the ground for like 7 or 8 years. Guns rust people, especially in conditions like that, but little detail. Anyway, this episode, I mean, I gotta say though, it did feel like Slade went down pretty easily. On the other hand, in all fairness though, he doesn't have the Mirakuru anymore. He doesn't have the element of surprise. He doesn't have an army. He doesn't have his armor. And he does not have the benefit of having been planning getting back at Oliver for a long, long time. Slade is probably only at most a few days, maybe a few hours out of that cage. So, he's not really in the best position to bring 100% of what he brought last season down on Oliver's head. But he does put up a pretty good fight. And I definitely did like that scene at the beginning with Oliver and Thea training with the sticks. Again, very reminiscent of the training that Slade gave to Oliver. I believe that fighting style is actually called Eskrima, and it comes from the Philippines and is the favored fighting style of Nightwing. But anyway, getting to see Oliver and Thea sort of team up against Slade, that was really cool. And this all, of course, leads to the big moment where Oliver finally comes clean with Thea that she's the one that killed Sarah. And this, of course, leads to that really epic scene at the end where Thea basically says, screw you, Malcolm. I'll fight beside you in order to survive, but don't even consider yourself my father anymore. And I just absolutely love the moment, the way John Barrowman said, you shouldn't have told her. I mean, just the way he did it and his face as he did it was just sort of so nicely done. It was like, well, come on, you didn't really think he was going to keep this from her forever, did you? And, if you didn't want Thea to react like this, you shouldn't have had her kill Sarah. I mean, that was really just the chickens coming home to roost for Malcolm. So, yeah, I mean, it is going to be very interesting to see how things are going to go in next episode, which of course is called Nanda Parbat. So, it doesn't look like Oliver and Thea are going to have that much time to train under Malcolm. So, Thea said he's a good teacher, and we have every reason in the world to believe that's true. Let's hope for their sake that Malcolm is also a quick teacher. And let's see, anything else? Nope, that kind of covers everything that I had to say about this episode. Oh yeah, the stuff with China White was pretty cool, and I about freaked out when like, oh my god, the auction is at the Foundry. I mean, ooh, way to use those old sets, Arrow production team. But no, that was genuinely cool. I loved that idea. Like, okay, here's where Oliver got the idea of using the Foundry as the base for the first Arrow cave. That's cool. And, I'm never going to complain about getting to see Kelly Hu on this show, especially now that she no longer has a really, really crappy wig. She has a wig. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you this time. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.